Hi, this is attorney Nicole Christie from the Christie Law Firm, where we work hard to make families stronger. So today I want to talk to you about the reunification process, but in this particular video I want to talk to you from the perspective of the actual parent. We as lawyers, I can tell you about the process and I can tell you from a very objective point, but I want to talk to you about some of the things that I've seen with parents, some of the emotions, some of the thoughts that are involved. And so I want you to just hear this for yourself so that you yourself, if you should find you're in a position where DCF has removed your children, that you can be best prepared for what's to come. So if once DCF has actually removed the children, there is this court process. And so all of this is happening behind the scenes. And you're going to sit and wonder, okay, they removed them on Thursday. It's now Monday. What's going on? And it's going to feel like this dead zone in the middle of that. You probably won't hear from the worker a lot because in the meantime, the worker is probably filling out forms and getting the kids off to school, or trying to get medical appointments or doing things that they should be telling you about, but they don't always do that. And 9 times out of 10, there's this dead zone, and it's scary because you're like, what's happening? I don't even know where the kids are, especially if they've been placed with strangers at what they call a core foster home. And so just know that things are happening in the background, but it's just not being communicated to you. So pick up the phone, call all day long if you have to, until you can get an answer. But what's happening in the background is that DCF is also preparing court documents, and those documents are going to be filed with the courthouse. And what happens is it's done ex parte, which means that none of the parties are present. The court just basically reviews all of the documents, and if he or she thinks there's sufficient reason to remove the kids, they will sign the documents. And that is called an order of temporary custody. The DCF also files neglect petitions right alongside the order of temporary custody. So it's 2 sets of documents. The temporary custody is just dealing with where the kids are in their placement, and DCF temporarily has them. But the neglect petitions are to decide what happens to the kids after this order of temporary custody. There's no hard and fixed timeline for that, and a lot of times parents will say, well, how long is this going to take? This is the beginning of what we call a process. Now that's a term that you will hear the social worker use, you will hear us as your attorney use, and when I know that you hear process and you think, well, what does that really mean? What do you mean process? And I'm going to tell you, process means that it's going to take a while. It is not happening tomorrow. The kids are not coming back next week. They're not coming back even 6 weeks from now. It's hard to make a determination. So there's all these steps that need to happen, and that can take a while. And so we say the word process because we need to understand that as things unfold and as things happen and as time goes on, they're evaluating you. They're making sure things are being resolved so that the kids can come back home. And so when they're taken, and then immediately when they're taken, the first thought is they need to come back home yesterday. They need to come back. They shouldn't have been taken in the first place. But now that that's actually happened, and once the court gets involved, it becomes a process. So it's best to start preparing your mind right now to know that it'll take a while. It can take months. I don't believe in it taking more than a year, but it can take months before the kids come back home. So prepare yourself, prepare your mind to know that, and to settle in and say, you know what, in these months, these are the things I'm going to do so that I can get my children back. And so this court process, and it starts with an order of temporary custody, and there'll be a series of other court dates where things are being decided. We as your attorney will be advocating for you, fighting for what is necessary to get the kids back home. But this court process has to unfold so that it can be determined, because once a judge signs that DCF has custody, only a judge is allowed to be able to return that custody to you. And so DCF may make recommendations to that effect, but only a judge can do that. And so the time it takes to get back in front of a judge, is in and of itself a process. So once that removal happens in the court process and the court documents are filed, bear down, know that this is going to take a while, but do not ever give up. Those kids need you. They need their best parents. They need their parents in their best state, because it is so important. Time and time again, I see kids grow up. They grow up in a different home than from their parents, and there's a part of them that just is so hard to connect. It's so hard to understand who they are, because they don't have mom or dad or whoever actually raised them or had been raising them since birth around. So it's so important that you keep that in mind. Keep the fact that you need to get these kids back. Don't think about them just in this moment, but think about them at 35. Think about them on their wedding day, on their graduation, when they buy their first house. You need to be a part of that. You need to see them through that process. So keep all of that in mind and understand that it could take time, but it is not something that can't be done. You can get your kids back. You need to tell yourself that every day. I can get my kids back, and I will get my kids back. Don't let anybody else tell you differently. If you ever need our assistance, please don't hesitate to contact our office. Or we also have other videos on our YouTube channel. Feel free to binge. They're very short most of the time, but anything that we can do to be able to be a support to you, we will do our best. Take care.